Hello student family, hey grandma, hey grandpas, how is everybody doing over there? Thank you for being back here with me from Suarez Basement, a video podcast created especially for you, yes, for you, those students in the communication, media, and the arts. Thank you for being with me. Your company means the world to me. It really does. This is all about you guys, to be able to keep you informed, educated, and entertained. I love all my guests. That's the whole point. I very interesting to bring people in the industry that I really want to have a conversation. But my guest today, he topped the list. I'm a big fan of his work. We have today here, well, not here, in the other side of the screen, Ross King, which is the man behind Miss Richfield 1981, which is fantastic. We're going to be able to talk to him about how he created this character, this very emblematic character, how to keep yourself in character, how to do a storytelling. It's a great conversation. So if you're into those subjects, please, this is the actual video podcast for you. And again, like I always say, this is a video podcast not only for you, but by you. So I invite one of my favorite students. I do have a lot of favorite students. Sean Ryan is here from the theater department at SUNY Oswego to also be part of the conversation. So let's start this really cool video podcast. Again, thank you for being here from Suarez Basement. Love you guys from here to the moon, back and forth, many times, and I appreciate your company. Let's go. Our guest today, I'm so freaking excited. No, I really am so a big fan. And the fact is that we call our episode today, Ross, we call it The Man Behind the Queen. Yes, guess what? Because, well, Queen Elizabeth has Prince Philip, right? Cleopatra have Julius Caesar and a bunch of other men. Apparently, she was a little, into a lot of men. Queen Bee have JC, right? Yep. And Mrs. Richfield, 1981, have you.
Me.
Yes, Ross King. Welcome from Suarez Basement, and welcome, Sean, one of my favorite students. Sean, can you introduce yourself very quick?
Yeah, my name is Sean Patrick Ryan. I am a senior, soon-to-be graduate of SUNY Oswego. I am studying theater with a focus in acting, directing, as well as communication and social interaction.
There we go.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to have you here, Sean. I'm so happy that you're here and be part of this conversation. So, talking about the man behind the queen, this is a very unique situation because normally we know Mrs. Richfield 1981. By the way, I have a picture with you right here.
Where was that?
That was in P-Town.
Love it.
Yes, that's
my place.
A long time ago. This is my awesome husband, and that is you.
Nice.
So we follow you all over the place. So having the opportunity to talk to you is, for me, unbelievable. So,
oh, nice.
Talking about the man behind Mrs. Richfield, can you tell us a little bit who is Ross King out of the character? Like, what is a normal day in your life when you are not Miss Richfield?
Well, right now it's so different than it was because I used to do a lot of traveling. And so when the pandemic started, or we ended up starting, well, it started a lot longer than when we responded to it, unfortunately. But when we shut down in Minnesota, where I live, it would have been about the middle of March. And just from the middle of March to June 1st, which is only, like about 10 weeks, I lost 2 cruises, a resort in Mexico, 3 nights in New York, a night in Boston, and 2 weddings, just in that much time. So a lot. So normally I'm on the road a lot. And so it's a very different life now being quarantined. We're still quarantined here. Our death toll is still going up. And so they're pretty cautious. Plus we have a Democratic governor and quite a liberal state house right now, which is great. And so they're being really careful, which is really good, and opening up very, very slowly. So we're all still pretty much at home. And for me today, that's a lot of online work. I do my bingo bonanza which, I have my Apple IIe all ready to go with my Bingo Bonanza logo here, and Miss Richfield always has an extra floppy disk, in case the show goes long. And so a lot of it is preparing for that. And then that has been great because it's also allowed me to do other business. So along with getting that ready 2 times a week and getting another online activity ready, we're going to start a game night sometime soon. Well, actually in 2 weeks. So we're working on that. Along with those is I get opportunities to do this. I get opportunities to, tonight I'll call a bingo for Tampa, gay and lesbian group in Tampa that's raising money for their food shelves down there. And so, so it's an active time for me, even though I'm at home. I'm almost busier than I am when I'm on the road. Normally, when I'm on the road, a lot of the time is spent on airplanes, in hotels.
So you are an artist like through and through, and you were talking about how you create a show and you bring that for a full year. Could you just talk a little bit about like what you want your audience members to walk away from your shows with? Like what do you want to instill in them, or what do you want to bring out from your show?
That's an interesting question, because that would have been a different answer years ago. Because this would be my 18th summer in Provincetown, which also is the anniversary of me being a full-time artist, because I was part-time up until the time I worked in Provincetown. That's what made it possible for me to be full-time and infused enough cash into it to be able to survive. It gives you, probably won't this year, but it gives you enough padding that you can work the rest of the year and stay busy, and you don't have that panic of, it's almost like Christmas season in retail. That's what Provincetown is for me. It's like where I make most of my cash. And I previously was always just, hopefully the audience has fun. Hopefully that really is the chief thing, is that you entertain them. I'm a little bit like a sitcom in that they come back to me and they want a new show, but they don't want the character to change.
Brandon, and because he's so handsome and he's a firefighter and he's so interesting, he unfortunately ate up all of your interview time. So we're gonna have to move on. But you're saying again? Okay. So anyway, we have in here all of our practices.
As I'm creating something new, I need to, in my mind, think about the fact that when people come back, they still want the comfort of the same character with the same story and all of that, but they want new songs, new story, new video. And so now I feel like I would say since Trump was elected, it's really been more of an awareness of not just wanting to shock them or make them laugh, but wanting at some point to make a point so that when they walk away, they feel a sense of like, oh, that was really nice.
How was the positive influence of, her name is Paige, your music teacher, and how she helped you to realize who you are and in moments that maybe were very difficult to come out as a gamer?
Yeah, her name is Paige Macklem. And I was born in 62, so my early years were even back in the 60s. And when I knew Paige, was elementary school, early elementary school. And I was fortunate enough, we were in a big school district. And so we had a lot of younger teachers. And so she was one of them who was just really a cool lady. She had graduated from Yale with her master's in teaching, and she and her husband settled back in the Twin Cities where they were both from. And so she was a really smart woman and just a really creative woman. And she, early on when Free to Be You and Me, which was written and produced by Marlo Thomas, she did it, but there was a million stars involved in it. Everyone from Shirley Jones to Michael Jackson and Dustin Hoffman and all these, and all these really this interesting mix of artists, and Rosie Greer, who was a football player, African-American football player at the time. And it was really a magical thing. And it was just teaching kids they could be whoever they wanted to be, which in 1974 was, well, it was produced in 72. The television piece of it was 74. And that was pretty revolutionary at the time. And the song William's Doll was about a boy that wanted to play with a doll. And he liked other things. And that was similar to my own childhood. And I got to sing the solo when we did it in school. And it was funny because when I talked about this in my show last year when I did the song Free to Be You and Me on the musical Saw. And somebody from NPR, from StoryCorps, which is not actually NPR, but they're connected sort of, saw me and asked if I would be interested in telling the story on StoryCorps. And they figured out where my music teacher was. I hadn't seen her since like 1975 or something. Like I hadn't seen her for a long time, and they found her. Believe it or not, I had her name, and so they looked around, and she still lived in the Twin Cities. She was still married, had the same name. She and her husband had still been married, and so there was no name change, and that helped. And she was a retired teacher, and so we got back together, and I was able to thank her for what she did, and through the StoryCorps, tell the story with her. Who were like, oh, that is so meaningful to know, that there's, because there's students out there, I think from every teacher that has touched some kid some way that, and a lot of times you can't go back. You can't say thank you. There's no way to really contact them. I would have had no way of knowing where she lived.
Right.
And,
but I'm interested to what do you think she did that was so special for you?
Well, I think the funny thing about it is she didn't remember it. She was just honest about it. She goes, I actually don't even remember the concert. She taught for like 40 years or whatever. So she had plenty of concerts under her belt, but she didn't remember that. But she said, obviously I must have seen in you somebody who could do that song. And my background's very conservative. My family is very religiously conservative. So my father was all about, we don't play with dolls. I grew up with 3 older brothers, 4 boys, no dolls. And, I like boy things too. I have a Matchbox car collection to this day from when I was a kid. And I like trains and planes and I liked all that stuff. But I used to play dolls with the neighbor girls. And in that, I soon found out was not okay. And I learned at an early age, and I think a lot of us did, that we couldn't be who we wanted to be. That, like as a first grade kid, I realized I'm not supposed to want to play with dolls. I'm not supposed to play with girls. I'm supposed to play with boys. All of that, mess that you teach kids, whether you think you're teaching them or not, that's the message. And so, my parents were pretty clear about it. My parents just said it that way. I mean, there was no subtle messaging on that. They were just like, quit playing with the girls, start playing with the boys, and don't play with dolls and all this. But I think what it did for me is, because I was like a 6th grade kid by then when I did that song. So I was beyond, playing with toys as a little kid. I was beyond that. And I think it was just nice to be able to feel like, oh, apparently other boys feel this way. Apparently other boys, if there's a song written about it in a songbook and it's on television, you start to feel like, like you feel like there's somebody behind you, like there's other people that feel this way. So
Miss Richfield has a very distinct look. Like you could spot Miss Richfield from across a hall or a street in P-Town.
You could hear her too, probably.
Yes. What went into the creation of what inspired you to make her look the way she looks?